V, what's good, what's good, what's good? Welcome to today's Sunday Roundup, where we take a look at what happened over the past week and try to understand how that could affect us going forward into the next week, even though next week is this week is a holiday week. Today's question, I don't normally ask questions, but this is a daily standing question. Have you invested in yourself today? It's kind of a big deal, at least to me. It's kind of a big deal. So what do we have happen over the past week? I can tell you what has happened over the past week that has basically crushed our ability to actually gain momentum this week or this weekend. And that was the threat against the EU for tariffs and the fact that also Apple got threatened. And the crazy part is that Apple got threatened because they want to build a factory in India. Okay. For all you know, the rancor that's going on about it, we don't necessarily have the right people in the United States to do that robotic factory work. RD Yogi, I guess, thank you. Are you saying that the background finally looks good? Is that what you're saying? If so, I'm probably going to cry now. But yeah, I mean, so what kind of resources do you require to actually build phones at an ISO level for Apple, right? You need to train a hell of a lot of people, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. You have a lot of people that understand how to do things and all that good stuff, but those specific processes would absolutely require, training. Now, the question is, why can't they have that training here, right? I mean, how many people does it take to man the factory, and then how much training does it require to actually train those people for those jobs? I mean, aren't you going to have to train the people in India as well? So are you saying that India, people in India are capable of learning and people in the United States are incapable of learning? Different conversation. Still, any kind of manufacturing that you would hope to have come back to the United States with jobs, okay? With jobs, and also with the logistics to go along with it, right? You've got to be able to get all the parts in and all that stuff in to actually build whatever it is you're going to build or manufacture whatever it is you're going to manufacture. So there's that whole thing. That's why it takes years to get manufacturing plants online. What kind of manufacturing you're looking for, what kind of parts you need, what kind of resources you need. Just a whole bunch of logistical issues need to be worked out for you to actually pull that one off. So my question is, why would you threaten Apple? Right? Knowing how long it takes to build out manufacturing in the United States for certain industries, for specific industries. So that would be an issue. We have not necessarily left ourselves open to regaining control over manufacturing. We gave up that control, and that's overseas. Now, what's crazy is, you want to know who's going through a renaissance right now? You want to know what country is actually going through a renaissance? Mexico. Mexico. Do you know how many manufacturing plants are in Mexico, especially cars? A lot of car manufacturing happens in Mexico. They've got high rail systems going from one side of Mexico to the other side of Mexico. But Mexico's doing a lot, and they're inviting a lot of investment. And not only have they invited a lot of investment, but they've already got investment from China, from Germany and Japan, other countries. They're raking in money. As a matter of fact, they've raked in more money than the United States. Right? You can go look that up. Do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately. So there are things that we can look at that we can say, well, this happened. I'm just making sure my resources are correct for this system. Okay, we seem to be fine. So when I look at that, I'm kind of like, wow. So what brought us down as we went into the weekend? Yeah, what I said was a major risk, something that's going to be an albatross around our necks for the next 3 years. And that is the whim of the current regime. And right now, that whim that actually has an amazing impact negatively on our markets is the word tariff. It's the word tariff. Hello, Paula. Thank you for letting me know that you invested in yourself. RD Yogi, you still haven't let me know if you invested in yourself. But that brought us down. You had the combination of, I'm going to raise tariffs to 50% on the EU. I'm going to do something to Apple. Don't know what. Yo, Hutanic, glad you invested in yourself today. Sorry I haven't responded. I've been neck deep in like work. This is a working weekend for me. So I'm looking at all that and I'm saying, yeah, we could have gone up this weekend. We could have gone up this weekend, but that the hopes of us going up this weekend has been destroyed. Can we see, Hutanic reached out to me. That's what I was apologizing about. Hutanic reached out to me and he was like, yeah, we could see a bounce. I don't think we're going to see a bounce this weekend. Maybe we'll see a bounce on Monday. I think Monday could wind up being a sell-off day because not Monday, but Tuesday. So think about that. You crush the stock market while walking into a holiday weekend. You crush the crypto market while walking into a holiday weekend, at least in the United States. What was the point of that? Hey, Captain Banana. Thank you for letting me know that you are interested in yourself. I know what you meant. You're probably having a fight with Siri again. Why would you do that? You're adding to the mayhem. And if you were paying attention to the Fed speak last week, what happened last week? Austin Goolsbee got out there and said there is a very strong probability for us to not change the interest rates for the foreseeable future. And it's because of all of this chaos, all of the economic chaos around the trade wars that should never have happened. We're picking fights where we are the world's #1 importer of everything. And we are not one of the world's biggest on exporting. So, of course, you would expect a trade deficit, right? I mean, common sense says there's going to be a trade deficit. Whose fault is that? Oh, it's your own country's fault because you don't make anything. Guns, food. And even then, nobody wants all of our food. Let's just keep it real. They don't. Because we put stuff in our food and they don't like that. I wouldn't like it either. Hello, Captain Banana, by the way, in case I didn't say it. Time to DCA. Yep, sprinkle. What else? Hello, 8 Pause. What's going on? And you're investing in yourself right now. That's what I'm talking about. I'm investing in myself at $10 per day in BTC. The landscape, $10 a day? Okay. Why $10 per day? Because it could have been $50 a week or $70 a week. Why $10 a day, specifically $10 a day? I just want to know. Let's see. The landscape has changed. It's about Bitcoins before they are gone. You know what? I am not mad at you. Yep. I like that thought. I went on trading after 2 months shorting BTC from 111,886, booked 90% already and holding the rest. Not bad. But I'm sitting back and I'm just looking at how everything is affected. Had the word tariff not been used this past week, I wouldn't have said that there was going to be a drop this weekend. I would have expected a little bit more action this weekend and then a drop early next week. That's what I was expecting. But as usual, here we start to gain some momentum, and here comes the huge silo of cold water being doused on it. Why? Is the new regime upset because, people didn't like his little crypto gala? Is that what it is? Rick Ritchie, thank you for letting me know you invested in yourself. That's what I'm talking about. So, and RD Yoga, I mean, did you invest in yourself? Meaning, did you do any kind of, investment research today? Like listening to my show could be a part of that investment research. That's what that means. Have you invested in yourself? Yeah, $10 per day, Captain Banana is mad discipline strict. That's you could set it and forget it, by the way. There are tools you can use to set that $10, set it and forget it. Just, here's a bucket of money. I've got it already pushed over there, and 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, and you just don't even think about it. You just keep refreshing the pool of money that you have over there, which at the end of the day would be $3,650, give or take, 366, right? 366, 365. Yeah, we did have a couple of good weekends, but this weekend I would have expected would have been a nice weekend. You go into the weekend strong and favorable. Everybody's kind of positive about what's going on. And instead, what do we get? We get the word tariff. And you know what happens every time you hear the word tariff. Pew! That's what you get. And to what end? To what end? Yo, Mr. Big, thank you for letting me know that you invested in yourself. The market needs a retracement of 7 weeks of uptrend isn't good for the market. I don't know what I don't know. I think that people are starting to look at the crypto market like they look at the stock market and trying to play the numbers game too much. And I think that's a mistake. That's just me, but I think that's a mistake because the crypto market isn't as mature as the stock market. Hence, it doesn't move by numbers or anything else. That's something almost predictable like that. I think the crypto market is way too nascent to do that. So it can move on a whim. That's why I have my 5% rule. I expect that I'll have my 5% rule for a while. I heard about the crypto gala, and somebody actually published it, and CNBC published an article saying that somebody literally said the food was, for all intents and purposes, lacking. For those million, and I heard that he came, he gave a speech, took no questions, took no pictures with people, and left. Came, spoke, left. And so the food bit because there's nobody there of importance except the people that spent all that money. Lamar Odom, former basketball player, was there. Justin Sun was there. I know Justin Sun probably fuming because he has spent over $75 million between the various, grifts that, the regime has going on at the moment because he's promoted it. He said, "Oh, I gave this much money," like it was like a big deal. Yeah. So it's kind of nuts. I'm looking at buying stuff. I don't know what Street Glide is, so I'm not going to talk about it. I can be wrong, but 1046. I have 90 as my ultimate bottom. I have 90,000 as my ultimate bottom. 104 is a small correction, a dip, right? Or the next size dip from where we are now is how I look at it, right? I need to refresh this screen. I haven't refreshed it in a while. Yeah, we're at 107.568. We had bumped up to the 109 area, and then we dropped back down again. Just saying. So there's a lot there. The government will have to do hybrid bonds with Bitcoin and gold to guarantee 10-year bond returns because they have no choice but to take rates up. A hybrid bond will ensure it. You're talking too much sense, sir. I wish you'd stop it. There are a lot of things that the U.S. government should do. I heard the dumbest thing come out of Senator Ron Johnson's mouth, and he was like, "Our problem isn't, getting money. Our problem is spending money." And I sat there and I was like, "No, our problem is getting money, because we keep giving these tax write-offs to people that don't deserve them and to companies that don't deserve them. Let me remove don't deserve and replace it with should not get them." Right? There's no reason for corporations to be getting tax write-offs. We've been giving tax write-offs to companies because they say they're going to bring jobs in the United States, but the amount of jobs that they've been offshoring has been insane. Hundreds of thousands of jobs. Hundreds of thousands of jobs. And what are they doing? They're taking those hundreds of thousands of jobs from here and creating millions of jobs overseas. Okay? That's what's going on. So that's a big deal. So I don't think that they should be getting discounts on anything. Look at any major corporation that has, a major technology team. I'm going to tell you that the bulk of that technology team is probably based in India. And even the people here are probably a lot of them are going to be Indian. Why? Because they use this H-1B visa thing to bring people in because we don't have the people to do the jobs. No, we don't have the people at the price point that they want to do those jobs. There's a difference in that statement. So when I look at all of that going on, that's how I look at manufacturing. We have a major problem with manufacturing, and that's how I look at it in terms of bringing jobs back. Not going to bring those jobs back. We're not going to bring manufacturing back. The United States has a problem, and the problem is we need to start to redefine what it is we bring to the world. We can't say we protect the world anymore. We haven't done that in a long time. Right? We can't say that anymore. We do have a huge military, but that doesn't mean that we spend our time protecting everybody around the world. We don't do that much anymore. Then we used to be able to say that we were a manufacturing powerhouse. We used to be. Remember the young lady? Are we that anymore? No. So what is it that we bring to the rest of the world? We sell oil, okay, but that's because nature has given us oil, right? But the world is also moving toward what? What was that again? Oh, yeah, that's right. Natural energy. So, or renewable energy. So where are we going with that? So when we look at these things, I'm kind of like, I don't know what these people are talking about. So I listened to Ron Johnson and I was like, this guy's an idiot. This guy's a straight up idiot. Oh, it's our spending. And the current tax bill calls for $7 trillion in spend, and he's like, oh, we need to bring it down to 6.5. No, what you need to do is bring it down more than that, as well as define how we're not going to blow more money, how we're going to decrease the $37 trillion in debt that we have instead of adding four more trillion to it by way of additional tax cuts. I think that's what we need to do, right? We need to stop wasting time. It's insurmountable as it is. But I think that, if we stop with all these, piggyback bills and, dumb money being spent on dumb things, literally there was a bridge built to nowhere. Go look it up, bridge to nowhere in the United States. It'll show you, yeah, this bridge goes nowhere. Because they got the money and they built it. And it's just like, are you kidding me? We have people homeless in this country. We have people looking for food in this country. And we literally built a bridge to nowhere. We just waste money. We need to stop wasting money. And if we're actually not going to protect the world, then why do we keep giving out money that we don't have to give? Let's fix what's in our own house first before we go and say, hey, we're going to mow your lawn too. I'm not going to mow your lawn before I mow my own lawn. Make sense? I'm not going to do the little old lady across the street before I do my own lawn. That's dumb. Right? So all of this is going on right now. That's the backdrop that we have. So when I look at BlackRock's, IBIT ETF, drawing more than $877 million, when I look at Genius Group and Semler Scientific and others buying into Bitcoin, when I look at things like that, I'm like, oh, that's really, really good. When I look at all of the innovation that happens, when I look at all the integration that happens, when I listen to all the RWA that's happening, when I listen to all the deals that are happening, Ripple with Chainlink and all that stuff doing interoperability, same thing with Cardano, they're doing interoperability. When I listen to all these advancements that are going on, that should be good, except our economy is hurting and not one single person in the United States, government that is contemplating getting us out of a $37 trillion deficit. They're not having that conversation. They're instead having the conversation about, let's talk tariffs. Let's keep everybody focused over here while we come over here and cut Social Security and Medicare and everything else. You know why I have my mother investing right now? Because I think her benefits are going to get cut. Or I have a fear that her benefits are going to get cut. So invest. Whatever you're not spending, invest it. Don't leave it in the bank, invest it. Maximize your return. Because it's ridiculous. Imagine no Social Security. Imagine the United States with no Social Security. It's insane. Artie Yogi, thank you very much for that. Hutanic, got it. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing those views. I haven't even been on the site yet this week. That's insane. I mean, today. Actually, no, I was on. Because I caught our Ouroboros level. I don't even gonna try to pronounce that. Whatever it is that you posted. I can't pronounce that word. It's a hard word. It is a hard word. Time is the most valuable asset. Yeah, you've got a trading view chart there. Yep. Oh, snap. Bianca, what's going on? Missed you, girl. Yeah, more tax cuts, Captain Banana. More tax cuts. I don't see anything in the bill about closing loopholes. The only thing I see in the bill is cutting of things that hurt the average American. Social Security, Medicare. And I'm amazed. We want to cut Medicare, even though, and they're proud to do it. They're like, oh, if you're able-bodied, you should have a job and you should be using, the public side of health insurance, blah, 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 blah. And if you're an able-bodied retiree, and my mother's able-bodied, should she be working right now? No. So what's wrong with that? They want you to go get a job. Okay, for some benefits, oh, okay, well, maybe you should be able to go get a job. Maybe we should go get educated. But every place you go where you talk about educating the workforce, they're cutting, they're slashing those things. So we're not even taking the time to educate our workforce anymore. And the public sector is saying, well, these people are not educated, so we're going to import these other people, or we're just going to ship those jobs out. And who's going to tell them they're wrong? Who's going to tell them they're wrong? Over the decades, we've created a country that all we do is consume. We've built a country that all we do is consume. We've created the biggest market for selling stuff. Stuff. Have you ever driven around Wisconsin? There are a lot of warehouses that are no longer manufacturing plants or anything like that. There's a lot of stuff out there that you're kind of like, wow. I had gone to Wisconsin once for business, and I looked at a building. I was like, wow, that looks like a sturdy building. Like, we could put a few businesses in that building. But the building I was looking at was a former manufacturing facility. Another one was an old school. Yeah. And I'm just kind of like, this is, if you just look around our country and you start connecting the dots, we're not doing so well. We're not doing so well. When they say we have a hot economy, who's having a hot time? Oh, that's right. The people up here. The people up here are doing so hot. The people every place else, well, we've got 2 or 3 jobs. Think about that. There are a lot of people out there that have 2 or 3 jobs. You ever stop to think about that? Even my daughters, they work during the summer. For my oldest daughter, this is going to be her first summer off since she started working when she was 12. She's a teacher now. She normally takes time to continue teaching throughout the summer to make extra money. This year, she's like, I'm just going to take off. I have the ability to, so I'm going to. Not mad at you. You deserve the break. So she's going to enjoy her summer. She's going to enjoy her summer. Good for her. But up until this year, she'd worked all throughout the year, just like the rest of us. 2 jobs. She landed her teaching job and still taught throughout the summer. Yeah, see? RD Yogi gets me. I don't teach you what to think. I teach you how to think. I try to share how I break things down. That's what I want to teach my kids. I'm not going to teach you what to fish for. I'm going to teach you how to fish. And then you'll start to see, I'll teach you even how to figure out what's the timing of certain species of fish. So you know when to go. We just planned a fishing trip with my dad. We're going to go fishing with my dad, and we were like, okay, what kind of fish we want to check? Okay, so if we're going to go fishing for that, we got to do it on this day or that day. And on these days, you get these kind of fish. Yeah, funny, no? Yeah, it's pretty comical. It's pretty comical. So I think about that, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm thinking about how we do things, how we get affected by things. I was hoping that this weekend we would be having a push toward like 112, 113, maybe even 114. I was hoping to get right up there, striking distance to 115. June and July, I'm not expecting anything good. I'm not expecting anything good. What every country needs is a discussion and education, or is discussion and education. And I'm not talking about school, but real life like this live. You are educating us, and I didn't realize where you're going. Educating us, and we're all having a good discussion. Respect. Thank you, RD Yogi. Rick got it. Hutanic got it. Or do you want me to share your emails between the three of us, and then y'all two can communicate and share phone numbers and all that good stuff? Those are big baggers trying to communicate with each other. Big baggers bring a lot to the table. Like it, I don't know if you scroll back up. Mr. Big is talking about a particular coin that he's interested in. When he's talking about a coin that he's interested in, he's done the research on that coin. And now he's saying to you, you know me, go do your own research on that coin. This coin seems to be calling my name. He's putting his stamp of approval on that coin and telling us, hey, you guys should do some research on this coin. In other words, giving us a heads up. Right? I tend not to talk about big bagger recommendations on this channel because we have a big bagger channel that we can discuss, recommendations on. And I leave those recommendations there. We are better looking now. We built support right under the previous all-time high. The money flow is not oversold or undersold. It's kind of on point. Thank you, RD Yogi. He's a little bit, RD Yogi is a bit, they are a little bit upset. I can understand why. Totally get it. So when I look at last week, we had a bunch of really cool stuff last week. We had a bunch of hard stuff last week. Go Fatima, what's going on? I have not spoken about the AI training class, and you have not let me know if you invested in yourself today. I know. I just roll right with it, right? So we've had technological advancements. We've got Ripple's XRPL 2.5 release introducing batch transactions, dynamic NFTs, and smart escrows. Wow, smart escrows. The Europe coin becoming the first MiCA compliant Euro stablecoin. Wow. There's a lot of stuff. Go Fatima does not let me slip on anything. She does not. She remembered about the AI class. And it's funny. Somebody else asked me about an AI class all the way down to how can I set it up? Like, how can I set it up locally? And before the show, we're rolling out new features and functionality to our current node infrastructure that we have. And there's a lot. You did the poll. I did, and that's what's up. That's what I'm talking about. I don't invest in myself today. Doing it now. You didn't invest in yourself today. So I think you might have been on for a few minutes. What else? Because we have a 15. I tell people that they should invest at the bare minimum. You should invest in yourself 15 minutes a day. Preferably not all in one shot, but you should definitely do it at least 15 minutes a day. The reason why is because you will pick out different bits of news, and you'll start connecting things from today, from yesterday, from earlier this week, from this, that, and the other, and you'll start connecting the dots. And you go, oh, hey, I heard about this, and last week I heard about that. That's 2 points that I have. One was hey, we're thinking about doing something. The next one, everybody that did my learn how to do your own research class knows that there are 4 points. I'm thinking about doing something. I'm going to do something. I'm doing something. I did something. That's the 4. I sent an email with the suggestions as you requested. Thank you very much. When did you send it? When did you send it, Go Fatima? Because that's going to be odd. I think they will time QE next year with moving the stock market to the blockchain. You make it sound like the whole stock market is going to move to the blockchain. That's not the way it's going to work. It doesn't work like that. Because the point of failure are banks. No, I don't think that's the only point of failure. I get your point, and I kind of agree. Have a great Sunday, Paula. Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll go look because I don't recall seeing it because I would have replied, or one of us would have replied. I think that one of the issues is that it's not just banks. I think banks are a failure point for sure, right? Put that on the side. But they have a lot of hoops that they have to jump through and a lot of oversight that they have. Guess who's starting to act like banks who don't have any oversight, who don't have any hoops to jump through, meaning they don't have those regulatory challenges that banks do? Exchanges. Exchanges are acting like banks and don't have the same rules. They do not have the same rules. That's something to think about. Do they have to change? No, they don't have to change. The on-ramps and off-ramps to stocks don't have to change. That's not the problem. Stock market doesn't have the problem that you think they have. Banks have the problem that you think they have. I don't think the stock market has that problem. What you're talking about is an additional feature to the stock market where things can be tokenized, put on a blockchain, and everything just moves around just like that. That's sure enough up to the company if they want to tokenize their stocks, or whoever owns a bulk of those stocks that wants to tokenize what their current holdings are. That's what that could be. And I think that before it becomes, even if everything was to move in the blockchain, I think everything is going to be a freaking mess when it happens. Unless you're a company like, where were they? I reported it this week. I forgot what country they were in, but Spain. That's right. It was Spain. B something. I forgot the name of it. But they're going to take 100% of their stocks, of their stock, and put it on the blockchain and make it easier for people to actually get their hands on. That's what they're doing as a company. Others that own stock, you've seen it happen, especially in Europe. They're tokenizing what they are holding, but it's not the company doing it. So that means that some companies are tokenizing the stock over here. Maybe somebody else is tokenizing the stock over there. It's going to just be a mess until there's some kind of a roadmap that's created about here's how we're going to tokenize. There are no guardrails about that. None. So, and that's not to say, and just because it's put on the blockchain, it doesn't mean it's going to be easier to get your hands on it. It just means it's more easily transferable. But where are they going to be traded? Kraken is saying they'll be able to do some stuff with stocks because they bought NinjaTrader. So that's kind of the direction that they're going in. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be that all stocks, just because they are tokenized, are going to be easy for the world to get at them. Oh, and then, by the way, you still have to abide by whatever stock rules for your country are, right? So if somebody comes along and they tokenize, let's say, Metaplanet stock, am I going to be me being in the United States? Does that mean I'm going to be able to put my hands on Metaplanet stock? Maybe if I go through some rigmarole to get there to buy it. And that's if they don't shut out everybody outside that country's jurisdiction. Same thing for U.S. stocks that might be tokenized. How can I get my hands on them? Do I have to be here? Do I have to be of a certain net worth to be involved, to be able to get involved in that network where they have been tokenized? So your suggestion of a blockchain does not mandate a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. There is no problem to a blockchain solution. The blockchain solution is just, growing up, a maturation, if you will, an evolution, if you will. But it's not a problem. Banks are the problem, right? And I will say this, though, to a part of your point, which is IPOs are a problem, because who gets to get involved in an IPO? The haves. They get in at whatever juncture they can get in. The rest of us can't. Ooh, yeah, that's the big deal. When a corporation is created, there is stock. It doesn't have to be publicly traded, but there is stock. And so you have those companies that sell some of their stock. How do they sell it? Who do they sell it to? Well, if it was tokenized, they'd be able to sell it to whoever could buy it, and then not have to worry about it. Imagine you're a company, you start a company, and you have X amount of money tied up in stock. Great. You take all that stock, you tokenize it, you put it on a platform, set it and forget it. There's a lot of stuff, but I don't think that's a problem. I think banks aren't the sole problem, but banks are the biggest problem. The biggest problem. I agree with that. I don't know enough about stocks. Been out since 2020. You know enough about stocks. When I traded stocks, it took forever to get approved funds into the account. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It's annoying as hell, right? So take any platform that's out there. You take your money, you put it into the account. Why does it take so long for my money to be usable by me? Your money's already there. Your money's already there. They're using it to gain interest. Because once you buy your stock, they can't play with your money anymore. That's why it's taking so long. Remember back in the day when you tried to, in the United States, when you tried to cash a check and it took days for that check to clear, and then they gave you it's an international check, or it's a check from a bank that, you've never done business with. They never used to say a bank that we've never done business with. They only said a bank that you've never done business with. So we don't know if it's going to be good or not. No, they knew. They knew. They were giving out excuses so they could hold on to your money for a longer period of time because they were making money off your money. So what do you think is happening with those platforms when you put in your money? That's the same thing that's happening. That's why I'm saying I think tokenization of stocks is the natural evolution, but it doesn't solve a problem. Like you mentioned, the on-ramping and off-ramping from stock purchases, that's not really a problem. It's an inconvenience. It's not a problem. Because when you go to an exchange, a centralized exchange, they do the same thing, right? You put your money in, you can trade as much as you want, but it's got to stay on platform. No different. No different. That's the problem. That's what we're seeing right now. So that's why I sit back and I just kind of go, yeah, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. So yeah, there are evolutionary things that can happen that have not happened yet. But the technology is here and you can start to see things happening. That is the adoption of the technology that I keep talking about. That's the adoption of technology. So that would make it easier for people to actually get their hands on stocks, bonds, options, blah, 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 right? I'm interested to find out when we're going to be able to trade stocks, bonds, options by funding the accounts with crypto. If you think about it, that's not going to be that far away either. Right? So when I look at all of the innovation that happened over the past week, when I think about all of the political strife that's happened over the past week, all of that economic impact that's happened over the next week, when I look forward, it's the same thing as what I said last week. We could be going up a little bit, but we still have that albatross called tariffs. And the reason why he started hitting back on tariffs is because who's forced to make a deal with him? Nobody's forced to make a deal with him. Some countries are saying, you're going to need me before I need you, so go on with your bad self. We like to boast that we're the strongest market out there because we consume the most. Why do people think that's a good thing? We import the most. And what he's doing right now is blaming everybody else for us having to import what we use. I don't think there are too many products out there that have a supply chain that's 100% US based. That sound about right? I saw this company, WeatherTech. WeatherTech is saying, "Oh, we're manufacturing in the United States." Great, but is your supply chain 100% in the United States? Because they were like, "Oh, we'll never be affected by by tariffs. It's highly possible. Maybe their whole supply chain is within the United States, is within our control. Maybe. Maybe not. Or maybe they're affected so little that they can just eat the cost. But there aren't that many companies that can say that. So yeah, that's a problem. It was like 10 days to actually buy the stock. They kept me out, in my opinion. Sort of, right? I think it was a barrier for little people, not a barrier for people with deep pockets. If you're a person with deep pockets and you needed to put in an additional $10,000 for a transaction you wanted your trader to do, you'd wire that money, they'd have the money, they'd use the money. Boom, 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 right? If you are a small person, even nowadays, you don't have a trader. What you have is a stock trading platform that you have to on-ramp and off-ramp your money to. So that means you need to position yourself, do your own research on whatever platform you're going to use, just to give you an example, and then know your entries and know your exits. Well, knowing your entries and knowing your exits means, how am I going to be able to execute on any trade that I need to execute on? Oh, well, I have to have my money positioned to do so. So for me, I take that into account. How long is it going to take for my money to clear before I can move it off platform? Right? That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. So I've learned over the years that I need to position myself to be ready to take action. You ever hear me talk about that? How I don't keep a lot of money on various exchanges. Why? Because unless it's for a transaction that I foresee I'm going to do, that's where that comes from. I'm positioning myself to make a move, whatever move I want to make. Right? Because I have certain on-ramps and I know that, and I have certain off-ramps and I know that. But it's, how do I maneuver to get what I want to get or sell what I want to sell? Right? So if you are if you're using a non-custodial hardware wallet, you're either going to go through a decentralized exchange or a swap space to actually swap your holdings, or right, that's a one-stop boom. I'm gonna do it. They're gonna do my swap or whatever, and I'm gonna come back. If you're using an exchange, you would go from your hardware wallet to an exchange, make your transaction there, send it back to your hardware wallet, or do whatever else are you gonna do. But it's usually a two-step process. Whether that two-step process happens within a swap or within a DEX, right? Doesn't matter. It's like you might go to your DEX and say, I want to find a way to swap this for that, and they figure out the rest of the work and they do it. But those steps are still happening. But you've got to position yourself. Maybe I want to put in more money. So what's my on-ramp for putting in more money? Am I using something like a Transact or MoonPay or whatever to do that? Right? Position myself to actually make transactions happen. But know your entries, know your exits. It's not just about, the price point at which I am putting my money in or pulling my money out. It's also knowing how I'm going to do it. What are my paths is what we're talking about. Right? Hutanik, I'm looking at your example and I'm saying I would be angry as well, because why did it take so long? You came into some money. Not going to talk about how you came into it. You came into some money. You want to do something with that money, but it took so long for that to happen. Right? That's what I'm talking about. Most people are not thinking about how to position themselves, to be ready to move on an opportunity. My money's not over here. My money's not over there. We're not doing that. Most people are not doing that. And I try to tell you guys that's what I do all the time. Right? I have my hodling wallets. I have my trading wallets. My trading wallets means I'm in a position to move based on volatility, which means I need to be able to move quickly. So I've got different avenues that I'm able to do that with various wallets. Know your entries, know your exits. It's not just the price, it's also the path. Right? And I teach that in my book, and I show you how to apply those three items. Do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately. In the book, I actually show you how to apply that to stocks, crypto, and business deals. I literally show you. Oh, it's called the GMB3, The Art of Research, Timing, and Deliberate Wealth. For those that want to know. Just saying. And Captain Banana Hutanek does make good moves. He's pissed off because I know what I want to do, and I should have had access to my money sooner to be able to do it. That barrier that he had to deal with is a barrier that's meant to keep him and the rest of regular people away from being able to do those transactions. That's another way that they separate the haves from the have-nots. Well, you could do that, but it's going to take you some time. Like, why? Why does it take me longer to do these things? I sure did not ask anybody if that was a good idea. They all would have said no. I knew my research and hit the buy Bitcoin button without thought. No, that wasn't without thought. It was without input. You thought about it. You literally just said you thought about it. You did your own research. You depended upon yourself to be able to do something. And why was that? Because there probably weren't a lot of people around you that you could even have the conversation with. You ever think about that? You don't have anybody. Like, why do I do this? I do this because I'm looking over the past week, and I'm able to have a conversation with you guys about what's going on and what I'm looking at for the week that's coming. Right? Because you guys get it. Other people, I can't have that conversation. I cannot have that conversation. Because they don't understand. They should understand. They should want to understand. But they don't understand. And it's tough. It's tough. So for us that don't have anybody to talk to, what do? We research every tiny little freaking aspect of the deal. I said it like that on purpose because it becomes like a droning on kind of thing. But that's how that is. We'll research every tiny little thing. And you know what I do that's a little bit extra that other people don't do? I weigh the risks. I weigh the risks. I name them. Not only do I name the risk, but I also give myself a number as to what percent chance do I have of that risk happening, of us realizing that risk. Right? So I told you last week the same thing I'm telling you this week. What I'm seeing as a risk is the word tariff. Something else that I'm seeing as a risk coming up this week, over the next 2 weeks actually, is talk over the big BM bill. Yeah, you know what BM stands for, right? That's a proper way of saying. Yeah. I don't call it a big, beautiful nothing. No log is big and beautiful. So it's the big BM bill in my book. We do not solve the deficit problem. We do not take steps to solve the deficit problem. We are not maintaining zero, uptick in spend or decrease in spend, meaning we're not remaining even. Instead, what this bill does is we are driving things up. We're doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on creating and living off of debt. You want to know what's going on in Japan right now? Nobody wants to buy Japanese debt. So who's left to buy Japanese debt? The Bank of Japan. Nobody wants to buy Japanese debt. At what point does it get to before nobody wants to buy U.S. debt? Massive problem, no? Massive problem. Yeah. So you sit there and you're kind of like, oh, nobody thought about that. I brought it up this past week. What happens when? When, not if. I said when nobody wants to buy U.S. debt. I'm telling you, keep your eye on Mexico. You notice how the talk about tariffs against Mexico and Canada went the heck away? Oh, you want to know what I think is next? Freaking Captain Banana, you rock. I think it's going to be the same ones that it was years ago. Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain. I think those are the ones. That's a pretty big chunk of the world to get screwed. And where those countries go, you're going to see other parts of Europe go. The world, the global economy has a problem. Hutanik and I are talking about, inconveniences, right? But when you look at the global economy, name a developed nation that that's not carrying an immense amount of debt in relation to the size of their country. All of them are. All of them are carrying major debt. Economies are hurting already. Historically, how are wars started? Usually something having to do with money and or power, but usually money. Money buys power. There is a price to holler then? I think you had a fight with Siri again. We're lucky it did not roll over in 2022. Time is running out. There's a reset coming. Oh, yeah. There's an absolute reset coming. All right. I think the smartest thing that this country could do right now is to play hardball. Remove the tax incentives from businesses. Remove the tax incentives from the well-off, because that's who has all the money. Stop trying to collect money from people who don't have money. People are trying to figure out, we're still living in a time where people are still trying to figure out how to put food on the table. When you get to a point where you're still selling Lucy eggs, you think that went away? It has not gone away. Egg prices are still up greater than 50% over last year. That has not been fixed yet. That has not been fixed yet. Why? Tariffs. Why is nobody talking about groceries? Tariffs. That's why nobody's talking about groceries. You want to know who's talking about groceries? All those little people that vote. They understand that Your dollar in 1982 is worth $1. It's worth 51 cents now. Don't believe me? Go ask Ron Johnson. He actually said it on a podcast just the other day. He said it on a podcast, the all-in-one podcast. And I just sat there and I was like, wow. Wow. 51%. Or 51 cents compared to the dollar back then. Imagine. That's what you meant. Okay, holier than thou. Because I was sitting there, I was like, you're having a fight with Syria and I can't help you. Yes, you're absolutely right. Prices don't change. The fiat does. Productivity is deflationary. CPI is a lie. Part of that is true. Prices do change. The price of eggs went up because they made it go up. The dollar hadn't changed yet. They changed the price. They raised the price. They inflated the price of eggs because they knew they could. And they did. And they have yet to bring them back down. Is anybody going to tell Cal-Maine and the other two corporations, yo, bring those prices down now? You've made enough money. You 3x'd your profits over the past couple of quarters. Yeah, nah, you're done. You're done. And here's the kicker for you. So they 3x their profits. Okay. Did they 3x the taxes on those profits? Probably not. Probably not. We're not holding corporations accountable the way we should. And why is that? Well, it's because we have people that go to Washington broke, or not this past season because everybody in Washington seems to be, a billionaire. But we go to Washington broke and we leave wealthy people. We walk in the door poor, walk out wealthy. That's a huge leap. From poor to wealthy. That's a huge leap. But look at Mitch McConnell. Look at Nancy Pelosi. Look at others. They walked in poor and they walked out wealthy. Not rich, not upper middle class, wealthy. And I'm telling you now, there are only two levels of people in this country from an economic perspective. Wealthy and poor. The rich have already been divvied up between going to become wealthy and going to be poor. That's already been divvied up. There are two buckets now. Two. Just saying. The cost of making widgets gets cheaper because of competition. It's debatable, but mostly true, but debatable. AI is free is free lines of code that leverages productivity, deflationary. Debatable. Remember, I'm in that space. Debatable. Very much debatable. Fatima, I wish you were correct. I think you're incorrect. He doesn't bully other industries. He bullies specific companies. And there's a huge difference. You want to pick on Apple for what they're doing, but he didn't say jack about Samsung. What other phone manufacturer is there in the United States? I'll wait. I know I'm being dramatic, but yeah, there isn't one. There isn't one. That's a problem. Planned obsolescence is, what Sony did with the Walkman, right? They looked at the transistor radio, improved it, created the Walkman. Then they, had already had the idea for the Discman, and then they already had an idea, like all beyond that, the cassette tape. They already knew when they created the tiny little Walkman radio to moving to a cassette, then moving to disc. They knew the lifespans. That's planned obsolescence. That's planned obsolescence. Where does manufacturing happen? Yeah, Kodak used to be a company. They used to manufacture here. How many companies still manufacture here? Not many. Not many at all. Are they going to come back? Probably not. So I'm going to scream something about Apple knowing fully well that they can't change their plans. Their plans to start building in India, that was decided years ago. Did he scream at Microsoft for saying that they're, investing in India? No, he didn't say jack. Another $500 million. Did he say anything to NVIDIA about wanting to build something in Taiwan? No, he didn't say jack. He was a salesperson for them the previous week before they made that announcement. He's not going to say jack. He picks on companies. He doesn't pick on industries. That's how he bullies. 300 million Windows 10 PCs are about to hit landfills. Unless there are really smart people like me that would snatch a few up. There are going to be a lot of companies that are going to, give up their computers. There's going to be a lot of people that give up their computers because they're afraid that, oh, my Windows 10 is telling me it's not. Well, they stopped supporting Windows 10 a while ago. And now, they're not going to support anything else. And I'm like, oh, go ahead, go do that. It's cool. I'm not mad at you. Go do what you're going to do. I know how to make a computer stretch. Most people don't. So they get rid of their old computers to go buy new computers. And they don't know what the heck they're doing. They don't know what the heck they're doing. They're like, whatever. I'll just get another computer. More money wasted. More natural resources going down the drain. Because think about all the metals that are inside a computer. Just saying. Right? That's what happens. Nobody's saying, oh, if you bring us your computer, we'll be able to recycle certain things and pull out the precious metals and do all this and do all that. We'll give you $50 because we're going to make $100 off of that box, no matter what it is. They don't do that. They don't do that at all. Just saying. Crypto introvert, that seems like a shill because you're not telling us what their market cap is, what market they're in, or any other pertinent information that proves to us that you have done any modicum of research. So until you answer that, we're not going to have an opinion for you. Those are the rules of this channel. We do not talk about coins that you don't show us that you've done some research on, because that's the only way we can have a constructive, conversation about it. And you've only had an account for 6 months and you have no subscribers. Seems like a shill to me. So, yeah, we'll just take care of that for you. There you go. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. So this week, I think that for the next 2 weeks, I think that tariffs are going to be a problem, because the reason why he struck first with regards to tariffs is because people are starting to say, well, we haven't heard about any wins. You said you're really close on a deal and then no deal happened. You remember that? A couple of weeks ago. Oh, we're really close to a deal. We're really close to a deal. And he didn't say who the deal was with. They never said who the deal was with. And no deal has materialized. So tariffs is still going to be a big deal for us, right? And it could be that maybe he said something over the weekend because he knows a deal is going to happen this week, even if it's a small deal, and that will drive everything up. So I'm going to bring markets down by saying this so all my friends can get in, buy in now, and then I'll announce something good, and then everything will shoot up. Right? So it's a yeah, this seems like a shill conversation. We're just going to delete it. We're just going to do everything that you said right now is a shill. It's not telling us anything about that company. This seems like a shill. So yeah, we're going to remove this because I don't want anybody to see it. We're not here to market. market some fictitious coin or some coin or whatever. Yeah, no, we're not here to do that. No, not at all. Not going to do that. If BTC falls below 105, alts are finished for a bit. Yeah, until like August, September timeframe. So what am I going to do if that happens? Oh, that's when I'll buy. That's when I'll start to sprinkle. Because I think by the end of the year, we'll see another huge jump up. We've recoiled a lot. There's still a lot of pent up energy. We let off a lot of that, a little bit of that steam right now, but I think there's still a lot of pent up energy when it comes to Bitcoin. And I think that energy is going to have to explode at some time this week. Must. Like, that's not even a question. Must. And then next year, I think is going to be a tough year. Anyway, everybody, this is Eddie J on crypto for growmybag.tv. Thank you for listening to the Sunday Roundup. If you like what I'm doing, do me a favor, smash the likes. Let everybody know that you actually like this channel. Get your friends to come on board. Go to growmybag.tv/sign-up. Become a bagger or a big bagger. Don't forget, big baggers, we have a meeting every month, a video conference call where we discuss all kinds of things. If you missed it, Mr. Big dropped a hint on a possible coin to buy into earlier in the conversation. I didn't talk about it on purpose because, I don't do tips on the regular show. And that's actually, according to him, he doesn't like it when I do that. So I didn't take up the conversation. I think it's a great conversation for the big baggers. So if you like what I'm doing, do me a favor, smash the likes. Definitely tell your friends about us. And as always, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And absolutely, thank you for your trust. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one. Bye-bye.